So PMQs is arguably the highlight of the week in the House of Commons. What it is once a week, the Prime Minister has to, and unless they're like abroad or something, the Prime Minister has to come to the House of Commons and be asked questions about what's going on. And these questions mostly come from backbench MPs. That's MPs who are not in the government and are not in the shadow government. The leader of each party gets to ask questions, but apart from that, they're all from the backbenchers, which is wonderful because in the regular world, backbench MPs do not get the chance to talk to the Prime Minister. And yet, once a week, the Prime Minister has to stand and listen to all of them, or all of them within the half hour, so like 10, 12, 15 of them. It's just wonderful. It starts off at 12 p.m. on a Wednesday. And the first question is always, oh, tell us what you're up to. And then the Prime Minister's like, oh, I'm not doing much. But this is the Prime Minister's opportunity to say, well done to whoever's done something good.
He wanted me to pass on to you his thanks.
Or, oh, Russia aren't being very nice this week, are they? Or whatever it might be. So it gives him a free ball, a free chance. Starmer's got to say whatever he wants. Then, the first question or the second question always comes from a Labour MP. And the Labour MPs ask questions like, oh, isn't it great how well we're doing with the economy?
But this rise is only possible because of Labour's plan for change and our commitment to the triple lock.
To which the Prime Minister says, yes, good point there, Labour MP. It's really good how well we're doing.
Well, he's absolutely right. We can commit to the triple lock because we've restored stability.
And then Conservative MPs will often say, you're not very good, are you? Why are there no cricket pitches in Rotherham? And the Prime Minister will stand up and he'll say something along the lines of, cricket pitches in Rotherham? I would have had cricket pitches in Rotherham if it wasn't for that Conservative Party. 14 years of Conservative misrule. That's why there's no Christmas pitches in Rotherham. And then he'd sit down again. And generally speaking, it does go along party lines, right? Conservatives say, it's terrible. And Labour says, oh, it's quite good. But they'll often also talk about their constituencies. So it's a nice chance to say, oh, I was in Little Snodbury the other day and it was really beautiful, and the school there has just taken the government scheme of free breakfast clubs and everyone in the school's really happy, and now they're doing little dances and the sheep are dancing with them, and aren't Labour great?
First schools in the country to benefit from a new breakfast club this month.
And then the Prime Minister will stand up and say, ha, 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 ha. That school sounds like fun. Yes, the government's great.
Pleased to say, Mr. Speaker, the first 750 breakfast clubs will open this month.
And of course, the Conservatives will say, someone came to me in the office and they were crying because they said the Prime Minister's such a bad Prime Minister. They were crying, and I said, they are a bit rubbish. The Prime Minister's a bit rubbish. What do you say to that, Prime Minister?
Mr. Speaker, this Labour government has failed the British public at every turn.
And the Prime Minister would stand up and once again say, after 14 years of Conservative misrule, I would say I'm not rubbish. The Conservative Party are rubbish. Ah, got you there. Although they never do the cat got you there. That's all in the eyes. Afterwards, that's the eyes. So those are the backbench questions. Largely positive from the government's team, and then largely negative from the other side. Now, occasionally you get times when the backbenchers are unhappy with their own Prime Minister. So we saw this year, questions about cutting the winter fuel allowance. We saw questions about cutting foreign aid. You see various Labour MPs at various times standing up and saying to the Prime Minister, I don't think this is great. That's the point of PMQs. PMQs isn't about all of the nonsense. It's about people being able to stand up and raise important issues and for the Prime Minister to hear it. Now, none of that's what you're going to see when you watch the news after Prime Minister's questions, because what you're going to see is the leader of the opposition. We've had the little ones, we've had the running around of the backbenchers, which is important, but the bit people remember is the leader of the opposition who has 6 questions. They have 6 chances to make their point and to build an argument. Because you can start off by saying, well, how was the prison figures the other day? And the Prime Minister will be like, oh, well, thank you for talking about prisons. I think prisons are very important. It's good that you raise prisons. And there were 3 people in prison the other day. And then the leader of the opposition can go, 3 people. I think it should be 4 people in prison. Keir Starmer, the Prime Minister, will go back, 4, I think you'll find, after 14 years of Conservative mismanagement, 3 is completely the exact right number. And it builds, and you can build slowly over 6 questions. Anything Keir Starmer says can and will be used against him. This is a way of pinning down our Prime Minister into something real and something deep. 6 questions. It takes like 10, 11 minutes. And it's not just an interview, it's squeezing, it's pinning, it's really getting into it. They don't have to all be at the same time. Sometimes former leaders of the opposition would sometimes split into 3 and 3. You'd have 3 questions on one topic, and then they'd sit down and let some backbenchers do their very important thing, and then stand up again and do 3 more questions. Kemi Badenoch's I've never seen her do that. But sometimes she'll split in the middle. She'll ask about 2 different topics over 3 or 4 different questions each. Those questions are vital in the ongoing parliamentary week. They set the agenda for the opposition party. They force the Prime Minister into making their own argument, defending their actions. You can tell when the Prime Minister's got a bit ruffled, because the Prime Minister does go back into the lines about 22 billion black hole.
£22 billion black hole left in last week.
They go to lines about 14 years of mismanagement. They talk a lot about the Conservative Party.
But when the party opposite was in government, we lost more days to strike action than in any year since the 1980s.
Whereas when he's really confident and he feels like he's making some progress, that's when you see it. That's when you see him move out from the complaining about the other lot and into the choices they've made.
We're taking a calm, pragmatic approach and keeping our feet on the ground.
And then after that, the leader of the second biggest party in Parliament gets a couple of questions. So that was the SNP until the 2024 general election. It's now the Liberal Democrats. So currently, Ed Davey gets a couple of questions. And they're all a bit more chill. The chamber just chills out a little bit for that, because Ed Davey generally agrees with Keir Starmer on quite a lot of things. Not everything, of course not. So some MPs are on a list, and the Speaker will choose some MPs, and sometimes the Speaker will choose the leaders of the other parties, of the Green Party and Reform and Plaid Cymru and the SNP. So sometimes those leaders do get called, but they're not guaranteed something every week. Prime Minister's questions has changed the country so often, so many times. Way back when Tony Blair was doing Prime Minister's questions against John Major, who was the Conservative Prime Minister before Tony Blair, it was laughable. It was so clear that Blair was the future. John Major he was a politician from a different era, you see, and he wasn't all about the chat and the spin, which Tony Blair definitely was. PMQs was pretty one-sided, and then sure enough, they won the big election, and Tony Blair was Prime Minister for a very, very long time. Theresa May. The country voted for Brexit under Prime Minister David Cameron, and then he quit. And so Theresa May was the Prime Minister trying to sort out what Brexit was. It was tough. It was really tough. And she would stand up at Prime Minister's questions and have question after question after question from various parts of the House of Commons who believed in various different types of Brexit and were very cross with her for not doing their type of Brexit. And then more recently, Boris Johnson's Prime Minister's question time, when everybody knew about Partygate. Everybody knew about the party at number 10. Everybody knew that he himself had been involved to some extent. He stood up and he said, I'm sorry if any law breaking took place, or something like that. MP after MP from all sides saying how awful it was. This is when PMQs really sets the world alight, is when MPs hunt in packs. And it's not just one party. It's not just your Liberal Democrats jeering from the sidelines. All across the House of Commons, individual MPs stand up and talk about the issue that matters. It's spine-tingling to watch. It keeps the Prime Minister on his toes. Keir Starmer has to turn up at PMQs on Wednesday, so he knows if he does something stupid on Tuesday, it's coming in PMQs. That is the power of that session. It's been going on for centuries, and it's extraordinary, and it's wonderful, and sometimes it's tedious, and sometimes it's just annoying, but it's something our country does beautifully, and it's a really important part of Parliament.